Okay, good morning. Welcome to the show. It's one of my favorite segments where we talk tech. And the buzz on everybody's lips, especially in the last couple of years, has definitely been space exploration and, of course, space tourism in a way as well. Everything, right from Blue Origin to SpaceX to our very own homegrown ISRO, right? Things have been buzzing in the area of space travel, space tourism, and it is a beautiful time of innovation. And it makes me even happier when this innovation is routed back to Bangalore, and I'll tell you why in just a second. But if I had to ask you the question of how well busy or how packed is space that it does need some level of traffic management, well, obviously it can't be as bad as Bangalore's traffic, but still, how bad do you think it is? I want you to mull over that while I introduce you to Anirudh Sharma, who is the co-founder of a beautiful little company called Digantara. Firstly, Anirudh, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm good. How are you?
Very good. And what makes me very, very happy is that, which I was saying a little earlier, is that homegrown Bangalore, kind of thing. You guys are based out of Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. You're a Bangalore boy yourself, and 23
Yeah.
years old, which I think is ultra cool. Did you ever think at like 18 years old this would happen by 23 or no?
No, I'm a computer science engineer by education, so I never thought that I would be in the space industry.
Okay, awesome. So, what I want to tell people is a little bit about Digantara first is that you guys are India's first air and space surveillance company, right? Which you guys started out of your dorm room, I think, in 2018, you and Rahul Rawat. Which I think
Yeah.
is cool because the startup, you guys have received about a grant of about 25 lakhs, which is used to develop space debris monitoring systems, and of course for your expansion as well. And a little body tells me that you've developed India's first in-orbit space debris monitoring and tracking system, which will provide global real-time Earth coverage by deploying a lot of, a constellation of cost-efficient nanosatellites in the low Earth orbit. It's quite a mouthful for a lot of people, man. That is. So
Yeah, I'll,
let's
yeah,
break it down and make it a little bit simpler. All right.
yeah.
What is the company about, and why did it start in 2018 out of a dorm room? Why did this interest kind of start from there?
So I was doing my computer science engineering back then in 2016. I started doing my engineering. So at that point in time, there were a lot of universities building and launching satellites. So we felt that why not we start something like that in our university by starting a student club. So that's how we started, working towards building a nano satellite. I mean, nanosatellite is fine, but it needs to have an aim. Why we should launch a satellite? It should it should serve for a particular purpose, right? So
Before
we
you
didn't
go
have a
on, if I
purpose.
may interject and ask you, for people who are not familiar exactly with what nanosatellites do, could you break that down and then continue?
Sure. Basically, nanosatellites are nothing but these artificial satellites, but which are small in size and cost efficient. Like you've seen ISRO launching big satellites, right? So those are traditional huge satellites which would cost millions of dollars to build. But this is something very small, compact, and cost efficient, which can be launched by even university students, right? So today the industry is moving towards launching small and efficient nanosatellites, which can serve the purpose of bigger satellites by reducing the cost by multiple times. So that was, that is it. That is something the nanosatellite would do. So we started building nanosatellite because we do not have millions of dollars like space agencies, but we are university students. So we started building this back then in 2017 as student team. So at that point in time, we didn't have a purpose. Why are we building this satellite? We knew that we should build a satellite, but what purpose does it solve for? That is something we didn't know. At that point in time, we were working with a lot of space agencies across the globe because we were student satellite team and we wanted guidance from someone like ISRO or any other space agency. So I was the project manager of this team. I had to write a lot of cold emails, to get guidance of people. So that's when I found one space agency in South America who replied back to our email and they said, "Look, we can support your student team by collaborating with you guys and helping you guys build nano satellite." So that's when we started working as a student team. Post that, they asked us to build a nano satellite structure. So we're like, yeah, I mean, why should we build this initially? So they said the cost of doing this in the US is much higher than what you could do. So can
Right,
you just,
right.
yeah,
And
I
actually,
mean, can you
that's
just
one
tell
of the
us
things
why?
that India also boasts of, right? When NASA spends so much money on like satellites and whatnot, ISRO actually does satellites and a lot of different rockets that they launch, for example, at a fraction of the cost. Am I right?
Yeah. So I mean, that is mainly because of the human resource availability here, and also it's like ease of manufacturing things. So that's when we took leverage of that and manufactured a nano satellite bus, or structures and avionics, and we shipped it back to them, for which they gave $1,000 check. I mean, which was huge for us as students, right? So we didn't know what to do with it, but they said you need to also provide us with an invoice or a bill for the check that we give you. So we didn't know what to do. We asked around. They said you need to start a company, to bill someone. So that's when we started a company without having no goal. I mean, all that we had in our mind
So
was,
the company was
cost of.
started to give an invoice, basically.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So that's it.
Oh man. Okay.
So we were just
Yeah.
thinking this proposition, right? Cost of registering a company in India was $100, and we were getting 1,000. So that was the proposition that we had in our mind, and let's do this. That's it.
Super, super. What I'm very intrigued about when you explained what a nanosatellite kind of does is that, say, for example, tomorrow, eventually the goal is if I personally want to launch my nanosatellite into space, it's a possibility, right? That's eventually where we want to get. But if everybody's kind of doing that, that also means a lot of nanosatellites up there, right? Which
Yeah,
is there is a need for some sort of management system to say that, listen, this should not crash into this one. This needs to be kept at this much space from this one. This one is coming in, so these others should move, and things like that, right?
yeah,
So from that perspective, you guys are basically, I mean, Digantara is also, well, Google Maps, but for space, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So we're building Google Maps for space, just to ensure that every activity in space is monitored, and we know what we're doing.
Now, what you kind of told me is that this was kind of like something that just happened. Were you guys always fascinated with space? And this also kind of reminds me of like a movie that I saw recently. I don't know. You've probably seen it because it's in your work area, which is Don't Look Up. Have you seen Don't Look Up?
Yeah, yeah, I've seen that.
And did you like it?
Yeah, I mean, not really. I mean, it's a lot of drag. They have a lot of drag there.
Oh,
So,
okay.
but I think the concept is good. They were trying to tell about climate change and whatnot.
Correct, correct. It's a satire for actually climate change, even though they focus on an asteroid headed towards Earth.
Yeah,
But man, I really hope that you guys are never in a position where you have to go and approach authorities like that to tell them something like that. Like really.
yeah.
Getting to, of course, the whole navigation through space, and what fascinated you guys, you of course your co-founder as well. What fascinated with you guys? Is it just like we got into this, we realized we liked it, and we are going ahead with it, or this is something that you've always been passionate about, and having a company like this, DRT, is supposed to kind of aid that and push that dream forward.
We never thought that we'd be building a company, but what we were very much passionate about is to build something out of the box, which no one else has built. So on that lines, I wanted to become an aerospace engineer, but you have peer pressure saying, you won't get jobs in India if you become an aerospace engineer. So take up computer science. That's when you get software jobs. So that's why I had to choose, CS engineering. Post that, we got this opportunity through ISRO student satellite program, where we could build and launch satellites with ISRO. So that's when we got into this. And today we are funded by a venture capital company, and we've raised $2.5 million in funding. We have a team of 12 working out of Indian Institute of Science and building a company, global space company that can serve for the problem that we are facing today, which is space traffic management. And I mean, just to give you some information there, um, we never thought that this problem would be so big when we started this out. It was a research that we were doing. Then we applied for a conference which was in the United States, and we got shortlisted as one of the top 8 best space ideas in the world. We pitched this in Washington, D.C. That's when we understood this has a commercial angle. We can
Right,
build business around this.
right.
So
Um,
that's when we started this.
Mm-hmm. And with space tourism, and that's where I started this entire conversation. Space tourism underway, and a lot of people are saying that this could be a very real possibility in the next couple of years. That space tourism becomes a real and frequent thing, right?
Yeah.
I think there is where the need for that whole space management system for traffic really holds good. But there's also a lot of waste generation in terms of space debris, right? And
Hmm.
that's but also another reason why you have people like, for example, Elon Musk, who wants to make a completely reusable rocket. What are your thoughts on something
Yeah.
like that?
So the goal of having a reusable launch vehicle is to reduce the launch cost or access to space. So that's one of the major goals that Elon Musk has achieved, because of which access to space is much easier today than ever. So the first satellite was launched in 1957 by Russia, and today we have more than 4,000 active satellites in space,
Correct.
and around 128 million objects as just space debris. So you can see the difference between active satellites and the number of objects which are nothing but junk. So we've created a lot of junk out there, and it is difficult for us to be able to navigate satellites through these junk, right? So today's situation is okay, but it will not be okay in next few years. So since there is a golden rush in putting up of satellites by all these enterprises, including Amazon to SpaceX. So I think there needs a system for us to be able to manage traffic in space, just like air traffic management. So that's where we are heading. And coming back to space tourism, everything that happens in space needs to, we need a transparent platform for us to be able to understand what is happening, which satellite is moving where. That's when space tourism is possible, because we are dealing with human lives and not artificial satellites, right? So that's where this the solution that we are building will be very useful for space traffic management. And that's why I call it Google Maps for space, because today you've seen how Google Maps has changed the industry, right? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
before Google Maps was there, if you go to a random place, like you land in, say, Bombay, you don't know anything. Where do you go? But today you can just Google it and go wherever you want to go. Navigation has become very easy. And you can also see the traffic, right? In roads, you can see the traffic. That is happening because of the number of Android users or users who have GPS in their phone. When it comes to space, we don't have something like that. So our entire aim is to make space transparent for us to be able to do a lot of activities, including in-orbit servicing, to human tourism, space tourism, and to launch of so many satellites that are happening today.
It's pretty cool. Um, you know, sounds like such a fascinating area. And on that note, I want to wish you all the very best. It seems like it's just the start of something really, really cool. And I mean, who knows, man? Whatever said and done, the future, the next couple of years, I mean, space tourism and, going to space and setting up satellites and all could be that big boom. It's already happening, in fact. But I can agree on a parting note with one thing is that no matter what you guys do at Digantara, you guys will never ever have as bad traffic in space as you do in Bengaluru roads. Just saying.
Yeah, space is undergoing a massive transformation. I think it will be worse than Bangalore at some point in time. We don't know.
I don't know, man. But listen, here's hoping you guys can
Yeah,
make it better. Anirudh, thank you for your time. This has been really, really cool chatting with you, man. Thank you.
thank you very much.
94.3 Radio 1.